Wendy, your reaction?
That's an interesting reaction, and that seems to be one of the Republican talking points. The fact is that these investigations started long before Biden knew he would be facing Trump in an election. We actually don't even know yet that Biden is facing Trump. So this would be some real legal brain gymnastics that the Biden administration would be doing if they were doing this, and they're not. I mean, this is an independent special counsel who came to these conclusions based on evidence, and then House Speaker McCarthy's notion that it is helping him politically is true. Whether that's good for the country or not is, I guess, up for debate.
I don't know to what extent he speaks for Republicans in the House. Zach, we did hear from Steve Scalise earlier with a slightly watered-down version of that, but it's resonating on the campaign trail, as we would all expect here. We just heard a short time ago from Florida Governor and Republican presidential candidate Ron DeSantis. He talked to CNN's Jake Tapper just in the last hour. Take a look at his reaction, the way he handled this.
I don't think it serves us good to have a presidential election focused on what happened 4 years ago in January. And so I want to focus on looking forward. I don't want to look back. I do not want to see him. I hope he doesn't get charged. I don't think it'll be good for the country.
Not everybody is giving the most full-throated reaction to this. You kind of dance around it a little bit, but we hope that it doesn't lead to charges or it's the weaponization of government. Well, I wouldn't do that. We're looking forward. Who on the campaign trail other than Chris Christie is going to seize on this, Zach?
Well, there's a political incentive for people like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, both in a primary and in a general election standpoint, if he won the nomination, to not really be talking about January 6th. Generally speaking, independents not a big fan of overflowing the normal democratic processes, and in a Republican primary, former President Trump is still far and away the leading candidate for the Republican nomination. And he and other candidates are trying to do this dance of trying to appeal to Trump supporters without, and trying to peel off some of Trump's support in the process without necessarily being Donald Trump. And that's been a tricky dance that I think you're seeing on display here, even in the course of all of this.
It was the first question DeSantis had an answer to. And that begs the question I asked earlier. Is there a reason why Trump decided to alert the world on Truth Social today when he knew about this Sunday evening? Is he trying to continue to dominate every moment, just suck all the oxygen out?
It would be exactly in Trump's playbook to do that. We don't know that that's what he did, but as you say, all the evidence seems to point to it. This was going to be Ron DeSantis's reset. This was his first big interview with a non-conservative media outlet, and he was going to be able to talk about all these things. And his first question is about Donald Trump, and they even broke up the interview into segments because there was so much news going on about Donald Trump. So if I were Donald Trump, yes, that's it, and wanted to upstage Ron DeSantis, it sure worked well.
King of free media. Just you saw the image of his statement earlier, if we can call it that, on Truth Social. Deranged Jack Smith, he called him. He's referred to him as a thug. He's questioned the origin of his name when he talks about Jack Smith. I wonder where that name, what was his name before that? He's called out his wife for being a Trump hater. To what extent does that kind of rhetoric impact the behavior, if at all, of the special counsel?
We saw they did something similar after Smith's office brought charges in the first place in regards to the classification. This is very typical, I think, of Trump's legal strategies to attack the prosecutor, something he does politically as well, attack people who are attacking him rather than necessarily defending it.
Does it matter as long as you're not attacking the judge?
I guess it's up to the judge, right? And so, no, I think the key question at this point is I think we're actually somewhat seeing a potential defense that the Trump team could put forward, when this eventually gets to trial, whether that happens before the 2024 presidential election is probably another question entirely.
And he continues to fundraise off this.
Oh, of course. And it's an easy way to put out fundraising and saying, the liberal prosecutors are attacking me, despite the fact, to Wendy's point earlier, Matt, this is an independent prosecutor separate from the normal chain of command at the DOJ. And Attorney General Merrick Garland's still seen widely as a reasonable arbiter of the law. Somebody that Republicans wanted to put on the Supreme Court at one point, and not just obviously Biden administration appointing him to the top of the DOJ. And so I expect we'll see a lot more of this from Trump's team over the coming weeks and months and years.